करिब 2 वर्षको कोभिड महामारी र त्यसले मानव इतिहासमा ल्याएको विपत्तिले लामो समय मानिसहरू विदेश जानै सकेनन्। विदेश पढ्ने सोचमा रहेका विद्यार्थीहरू अनलाइन मार्फत पढ्न विवश भए। तर अहिले वैदेशिक अध्ययन पुरानै लयमा फर्किएको देखिन्छ। शिक्षा मन्त्रीका अनुसार गत साल मात्र करिब 1,22,000 विद्यार्थीहरू वैदेशिक शिक्षाका लागि 106 भन्दा बढी मुलुक गएको तथ्याङ्क छ। देशभित्रको अस्थिर राजनीतिक अवस्था र विकसित मुलुकमा पुगी संसारभर मान्यता प्राप्त हुने शैक्षिक डिग्री लिने धेरै विद्यार्थीहरूको चाहना बढ्दै गएको छ। सबैभन्दा धेरै विद्यार्थी अहिले अस्ट्रेलिया गएका छन् भने क्यानाडा, जापान, बेलायत र अमेरिका जाने संख्या पनि सानो छैन। विगत 17 वर्षदेखि निरन्तर प्रसारण हुँदै आएको नेपालकै पहिलो शैक्षिक कार्यक्रम इन्फो प्लसमा हामीले बेलायत, अस्ट्रेलिया, अमेरिका जस्ता मुलुकहरूमा पुगी एक्सपेक्टेशन्स भर्सेस रियालिटी प्रस्तुत गर्दै आएका थियौं। कोभिडले हाम्रो यात्रामा केही समय विराम लगाए पनि पछिल्लो समय धेरै विद्यार्थीहरूले सपनाको मुलुक ठानेको अस्ट्रेलिया पुगी त्यहाँको कोभिड महामारी पश्चातको अवस्था जान्ने उत्सुकता हामीमा थियो र हामीले तय गर्यौं जर्नी टु अस्ट्रेलिया सिजन 5। यसबारेमा हामीले नेपालस्थित अस्ट्रेलियन राजदूत र दूतावाससँग परामर्श गर्यौं। जर्नी टु अस्ट्रेलिया सिजन 1 देखि हातेमालो गर्दै आएको दूतावास यो सिजनमा अस्ट्रेलियाको पोस्ट पेन्डेमिक अवस्था बुझ्न जाने हाम्रो यो प्रयासलाई साथ दिन तयार थियो। अस्ट्रेलियन ट्रेड कमिसन र अस्ट्रेलियन हाई कमिसन स्टडी गोल्ड कोस्ट र ग्लोबल रिचको समेत सहयोगमा हामीले अस्ट्रेलियाको यात्रा प्रारम्भ गर्यौं। कार्यक्रम इन्फो प्लस की प्रस्तोता एवं मिडिया पर्सनालिटी सदीक्षा श्रेष्ठ र चर्चित निर्देशक सिमोस सुनवार टिममा सहभागी भए। उनीहरू आफ्नो आँखाले पहिलो पटक अस्ट्रेलिया हेर्ने र बुझ्ने कोसिसमा जाँदै थिए। नेपाली विद्यार्थीले सोचेको अस्ट्रेलिया र त्यहाँ भोगेको अस्ट्रेलिया बीच के फरक छ भन्ने जान्नु नै हाम्रो यात्राको मूल अभिप्राय थियो। हाम्रो यात्रा प्रारम्भ भयो। उडानका लागि भर्खरै नेपाल ल्याइएको सिङ्गापुर एयरलाइन्सको नयाँ जहाजभित्र पुग्यौं, जहाँ एयरलाइन्सका जनरल म्यानेजर स्वयं हामीलाई आतिथ्यताका लागि आउनु भएको थियो। निधारमा रातो टीका लगाई अस्ट्रेलिया उड्न लागेकी सदीक्षा एयरलाइन्सको आतिथ्यताबाट दङ्ग मात्रै थिएनन्, यही र यस्तै एयरलाइन्सबाट दैनिक सयौंको संख्यामा अस्ट्रेलिया उड्ने विद्यार्थी, उनीहरूले पढ्ने विश्वविद्यालय र कामसँगै पढाइ गर्दाको दबाव कस्तो होला बुझ्न आतुर थिइन्।
We are on board Singapore Airlines newest flight to Kathmandu. So काठमाडौँदेखि सिङ्गापुर फ्लाइ गर्ने चाहिँ यो नयाँ एयरक्राफ्ट हो, हिजो भर्खरै मात्रै आएको एन्ड आई थिङ्क दिस इज अ फ्यान्टास्टिक बिगिनिङ। जर्नी टु अस्ट्रेलियाको यो 5th सिजन हामी सुरु गर्दैछौँ र हामी सिङ्गापुर एयरलाइन्सको यो नयाँ एयरक्राफ्टमा सिङ्गापुर हुँदै अस्ट्रेलिया जाँदैछौँ। वी आर अल भेरी एक्साइटेड टु शोकेस यु हाउ फ्याबुलस द सर्भिस हियर एट सिङ्गापुर एयरलाइन्स। केही घण्टाको उडानपछि हामी सिङ्गापुर ल्यान्ड भयौं, जहाँ करिब 15 घण्टा ट्रान्जिट थियो। समय सदुपयोग गर्न हामी निस्कियौं सिङ्गापुरका रमणीय स्थल घुम्न।
जहाँ हजारौं नेपालीहरू घुम्न र अन्य सिलसिलामा पुग्ने गर्छन्।
जर्नी टु अस्ट्रेलियाको स्टप ओभर चाहिँ सिङ्गापुरमा भएको भएर अनि मोर देन 15 आवर्स ट्रान्जिट भएको भएर चाहिँ आई थिङ्क वी युटिलाइज इट पर्फेक्टली। सिङ्गापुरमा धेरै टुरिस्टहरू घुम्न आउने ठाउँ नै यो मरिना बे स्यान्ड्स एरिया नै हो। मर्लायन पनि हामीले देख्यौँ। धेरैजना पनि यहाँ फोटो खिच्नलाई एकदम टुरिस्टिक डेस्टिनेसन पनि हो यो। लोकल्सहरू पनि धेरैजना आइरहेको छ। अब चाहिँ अलिअलि भोक लाग्यो, सो विल गो प्राउडली इट समथिङ।
अराइभल भिसा पाइने भएकाले पनि सिङ्गापुर नेपालीका लागि बढी सहज छ। सिङ्गापुरको विकास संसारकै लागि सम्झन लायक छ। घुम्ने ठाउँ त कति हो कति। ट्रान्जिट समयको सदुपयोग गरिसकेपछि सिङ्गापुरबाट हामी हाम्रो अन्तिम गन्तव्य अस्ट्रेलिया पुग्यौं।
From Sydney. इन्फोप्लस को जर्नी टु अस्ट्रेलिया को 5औं सिजन को सुरुवात हामी गर्दैछौं ठिक ओपेरा हाउस अगाडिबाट।
हामी अस्ट्रेलियाको मुख्य सहर सिडनी, पोर्ट मक्वारी, ब्रिस्बेन र गोल्ड कोस्ट जस्ता सहर घुम्यौं। दस भन्दा बढी शिक्षण संस्था पुगेर दर्जनौं नेपाली विद्यार्थीहरूसँग मन खोलेर कुरा गर्यौं। कोभिड पछि अस्ट्रेलियाले कुनै न कुनै सन्दर्भमा विदेशीहरू भित्र्याउन चाहेको हामीले बुझ्यौं। सम्पूर्ण सेवा सुविधा प्रविधिकै सहायताले हुने बनाइएको रहेछ। ह्युमन टच खासै हुन नपर्ने। मानौ रेस्टुरेन्टमा गयो, आइप्याडबाट खाना अर्डर गर्यो, खाना खायो, अनलाइन पेमेन्ट गर्यो। मान्छेसँग बोल्न र कुरा गर्नै नपर्ने। यसो हेर्दा सबै मेसिन र प्रविधिकै भरमा चलेको देखियो। ह्युमन टच नहुने भएकाले फ्रस्ट्रेसनको मात्रा पनि बढ्दै गएको केहीले बताए।
I think even for Australians to just come during the weekend and just have a relaxing afternoon or evening.
Yeah.
Is this area also popular for students to live in, or no? This would be quite expensive, I believe, right? Or
I think so, and there's not as many. It's not as close to universities as maybe Newtown or Coogee might be closer to UNSW. But I'm sure that students definitely live here. It is relatively close to UNSW, plus beaches here.
Beaches,
so
yeah. So in terms of shopping as well, like for students, do you know a place that like students usually shop or buy the essentials?
well, close to here there's a Bondi Westfield, so you can definitely go there. There's heaps of shops available. For stationery and stuff, you just go to your local post office, or Office Works is the big one, I guess. Yeah, but generally it's pretty easy to find. There's huge shopping centres everywhere.
बाहिरबाट हेर्दा वाउ अस्ट्रेलिया नभन्ने को होला र। सफा सडक, अग्ला आकर्षक बिल्डिङ, सुविधा सम्पन्न सार्वजनिक सवारी साधन, बस, ट्रेन, ट्राम, उत्कृष्ट ट्राफिक म्यानेजमेन्ट, लोभलाग्दो समुद्र। हामी पनि लोभियौँ र मोहित बन्यौँ। हामीलाई थाहा थियो यो देखिने रमाइलो आवरणभित्र धेरैका आफ्नै कथा व्यथा पनि छन् र हुन्छन्। जिन्दगी सोचे झै रहेनछ भन्नेहरू पनि होलान् र यही स्वर्ग भन्नेहरू पनि भेटिएलान्। हामी सुख दुःखको कहानी सुन्न र सुनाउन अस्ट्रेलिया पुगेका थियौँ।
Welcome to Sydney.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Aditya, for having me and just agreeing to show me around. And the day is fantastic as well. Not too sunny, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that you would see actually more people here if it was sunnier.
Oh,
because
really?
a lot of people love tanning in this area, so they like to be in the sun. But actually, I prefer this weather.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
I feel like I think it's a South Asian thing where we wouldn't want the sun to be out and for us to be tanned even further, I guess. But
well, actually, you know, like I've been enjoying a bit of tanning. The thing is, actually, when I went to India, right? So I had some distant relatives who I went to this wedding, and then there were people there, I guess, who I didn't really know, but they came up to me and they're like, "Oh, we saw you last year, and you were fairer. What happened?" I'm like, "Oh, I've been in the sun." They're like, "Oh, like you know, in the Indian context, you should not be out in the sun too much." But it is what it is. I love the sun, and people in Australia love the sun. So.
That's true,
Yeah.
and why wouldn't they? Because the beach is right there, and the sand is it looks really nice. And who wouldn't want to be up there and lay around for as long as they possibly could?
For sure, and surfing is very big in Australia. As you can see, there are so many surfers.
Yeah, especially Nepal being a landlocked country, we would never get an opportunity to do this. And I feel like for international students, once in a while when they do get that break or are here already, they might as well enjoy and maybe learn a new skill. Maybe, you never know where that might take you, right?
Absolutely. Like, honestly, I've met so many international students across my time here, and I see like how people approach their transition differently, right? So some of the most flourishing international students that I've seen, they have been the ones to fully embrace themselves with the Australian culture, like trying new things, like doing a lot of things which they wouldn't normally do, like even skating, for example. But the thing is that on the other hand, I see so many international students who come here and they would join. I mean, I would highly recommend that everyone joins their home country's club here. But the thing is that a lot of people just end up staying within themselves. And often it's actually due to people thinking in their mind that people will judge me because I'm from here. But the thing is that internal judgment is what prevents them from experiencing that, because people in Australia, majority of them are very friendly and would love meeting new people. They celebrate new cultures. So I would highly recommend that when you come here, just forget about everything and just completely paint yourself in the color that is Australia.
A very interesting thing that I've discovered is whenever in terms of eating out as well, I found so many Indian restaurants and Nepali restaurants and Thai restaurants, Chinese. But to be honest, there's nothing, I don't think, is there anything called like Australian food? I don't think there is, right? Because it's so multicultural and people from all over the world have called Australia their home. And Australia has also in return, I think accommodated all of them and also welcomed all of their cultures. It's quite nice to see that as well. In terms of food as well, how would you say international students can adjust?
So the thing is that honestly, you can get whatever you want here. So there are places in, I think, Harris Park and Rockdale, and other places in Sydney as well, which have Nepalese restaurants.
Another thing I wanted to talk to you about and get your opinion on was also public transportation, because I feel like in Sydney, of course, the living, accommodation, all of that is on the higher side, it being an expensive city. But I also see, good public transportation, good services. The bus and the train nearly goes anywhere and everywhere that you would want it to go. Most students, do they also, you find, stay near the campus area or a bit away and are traveling back and forth to the campus?
So the thing is, so the transportation in Sydney is quite elaborate and extensive, which is amazing. People can find it not very hard to get from place to place, especially if they are on the train line, but which is what a lot of international students do. So, I mean, the preference would be to find a place near where you are studying. And a lot of students do that. So a lot of the students will come and try to initially, especially, live somewhere nearby and have friends who they share their accommodation with. But that said, it depends on circumstances. So if someone is doing part-time work somewhere further away, it's actually still manageable, because you can just go, let's say, even half an hour by train away, and if you live near the train station, it just takes half an hour to get here. So half an hour, in the grand scheme of things, is not too long. Especially when you come from like Nepal,
where we get stuck in traffic even for like 5 kilometers, to be honest. So actually, that is not bad. And also, apart from the beaches, what are some of the other activities that international students should indulge in or should participate in during their time here in Sydney?
So, see, first of all, it's meeting people, right? Because when you meet people, then you can get like different takes on life. And the beautiful thing upon, there are people from all multicultural backgrounds here. So being here, you get to have friends from around the world. So meeting people, now you can join societies, for example, based on your own interest. So like someone might love volleyball, and you can see people playing volleyball here on the beach. And I know people who have actually tried to learn volleyball while they have been studying. So trying a drama, if you're into drama, theater, music, you name it. And there are like even things like movie appreciation societies, so you can watch movies with people. But outside of that, to go to the amazing eateries, and even, for example, there are just beautiful little suburbs like Newtown, especially when you're coming from Nepal. It's actually,
it's limitless, right?
Limitless, indeed, yeah.
That's fabulous, because it feels so nice. Definitely, I feel like as a student, when you come in, of course, you are excited, you're scared, you're nervous, you're anxious, you're hopeful, optimistic. There's so many mixed emotions, I feel like, as an international student that you bring into a new country, right? While in our conversation with some of the Nepali students who've been studying in Sydney, one thing that they have slightly touched upon is also communication, like how they're maybe slightly intimidated by the Aussie accent and how fast they speak. So what would you tell them? How can they cope up with it better? Should they maybe take extra classes, maybe watch some movies or dramas to get better accustomed to the language and the accent? Or what could they do that would help them?
The thing is actually, like when I moved to Australia, so I remember I was, I think, 15 or 16 years old. And so I remember thinking like the week before in my own head, I'm like practicing my English, I'm trying to like just say everything in English. And just preparing myself like, oh, can I do this? Can I do this? And then I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And there was this like internal war and conflict. Like, can I get better at this? But then the truth is, I once came here, and then I was doing a presentation in a class. And I remember at that point, I had given my presentation, and I always felt, because I came with this thought process from home, where I thought that, people would judge me for my accent. So I remember I finished my presentation, and then I just told the class, I'm sorry if it was difficult to understand me because of my accent. But actually the first thing the teacher is like, no need to apologize at all. And everyone in the class actually supported him and said that there's nothing to apologize about, because it's actually something to celebrate. So the thing is, see, like you will have all kinds of people everywhere. Right? There are good and bad people everywhere. In fact, I would say when you come to Australia, majority of the people are amazing and very welcoming, especially in places which are as multicultural as Sydney or Melbourne or even the other places like, even Adelaide or Cairns, Perth, anywhere you go. And in fact, even in smaller parts of Australia, I have friends who've grown up in very remote places and they're still very friendly.
Fantastic tip and fantastic advice. Even I believe that sometimes, students who come to Australia are nervous and anxious, and they let that side take over, because of which they second guess themselves, they start doubting and questioning, and that also sort of limits them mentally as well, so that they would rather not go to a social outing, or would rather spend their weekends inside their house and apartment and not go out and socialize. So that is a fantastic tip. I think if international students start doing that, what you just said, more often, their life in Australia would be much, much more better, and the experience overall would also be really good, I believe.
100%. Yeah, the main thing is to practice, and you can only practice when you're not afraid to speak the language.
So how far is Newtown from here?
39 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
So you went to university where again? Thailand?
Thailand, yes.
Nice, how was that?
It was fabulous. I think also in Thailand also there are a lot of international students who come for exchange, all of that, but of course not as much as Australia. We see a lot of notifications here like red light, speed camera ahead. So we've realized that in Australia there are a lot of rules, regulations, of course, for the safety of the citizens and all of that as well. How can international students who come here can really get accustomed to that, or know more about all these rules and regulations, like things that they should do, shouldn't do, can do, cannot do?
For sure. So the thing is, firstly, when it comes to driving, as you mentioned, it is very different to drive here compared to in Nepal, because people actually follow the rules.
Yeah. So, yes.
So in fact, I remember places in India, for example, if you stop at the traffic light, people will honk at you.
Yes.
So
exactly.
So anyways, with here, even though international students are allowed to drive here, I would highly recommend that first you do some classes with someone and then familiarize yourself with the rules, because so many times there'll be certain signage which you're not used to in Nepal, and you won't know what to do. And then there are certain rules, like for example, when it's school times, like when the schools are starting or ending, then the speed limit becomes 40. So if you don't know that, you can. And the thing is, the fines here are very big. It's very average to get a fine of $250 for going more than 10 kilometers over the speed limit.
Also, in terms of public transportation as well, because a lot of people use Opal card here, right, to get around and get by, and it always says tap on and tap off whenever you get in and get out. There are a lot of fines if you don't do that as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. So you do want to be doing those, because often they'll have random checks as well on the train. But a lot of the train stations, especially in the city, you will need to tap in order to get inside the gate. But the thing is that you can get the Opal card, but if you have a debit card with the chip on it, then you can just use your card directly.
To do that
so you don't need to buy a separate Opal card for it. But that said, if you don't have a debit card which you can readily use, then Opal card definitely makes sense.
विभिन्न ठाउँमा पुग्दा फरक पृष्ठभूमि र अनुभव भएका विद्यार्थीहरू भेटिए। अहिले दुःख भए पनि भविष्य राम्रो हुन्छ भन्नेमा अधिकांशको आत्मविश्वास देखियो। अस्ट्रेलिया जाने विद्यार्थीहरूलाई सहयोग गर्दै आएको ग्लोबल रिचले त्यहाँको अवस्थाबारे हामीसँग यसरी कुरा गरे।
for student support officer in Global Reach, especially for onshore student, has really helped me to introspect as well, because I came as an international student for the first time. So I just don't counsel them as a counselor or agent per se. I do that as a friend. I understand where they're coming from, all those anxiety, questions after questions, and I think that helps me to counsel them more. And I think that is more needed to चाहिन्छ पनि किनभने जब हामीले स्टुडेन्टलाई उनीहरूको लेभलमा बुझ्न सक्छौँ सर्भिस त्यही हिसाबको पनि हुन्छ अनि आई थिङ्क जुन त्यो कम्फर्ट लेभल हुन्छ स्टुडेन्टसँग द्याट इज आई थिङ्क बियोन्ड अनदर लेभल विच इज नट समथिङ दे आर जस्ट नट द नम्बर्स दे आर ह्युमन बिङ्स and we can connect and give the service to that part. I think that's the important thing.
अनि एउटा सोध्न मन लागेको चाहिँ कस्तो पर्सपेक्टिभले हेर्नुहुन्छ जस्तै ओहो कस्तो रमाइलो नेपालीहरू रहेछ चिन्ने हाम्रो साउथ एसियन कम्युनिटी रहेछ छ्या यहाँ पनि कस्तो नेपालीहरू भन्ने जस्तो कस्तो पर्सपेक्टिभ छ
आई थिङ्क पर्सपेक्टिभ पर्सन टु पर्सन चेन्ज हुन्छ तर मेरो लागि चाहिँ एज अ इन्टरनेसनल फर्मर स्टुडेन्ट एन्ड अल्सो इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्ट नाउ यो 5 इयर्सको कोर्स टाइममा चाहिँ आई रियली फिल ह्याप्पी वेन आई मिट नेपालिज पिपल अनि एउटा सेन्स अफ कम्युनिटी पनि हुन्छ द्याट युआर नट अलोन इन दिस फरेन कन्ट्री जहाँ चाहिँ भाषाहरूदेखि लिएर एभ्रिथिङ इज भेरी न्यू टु अस सो आई थिङ्क इट्स डेफिनेटली पर्सन टु पर्सन एन्ड कम्युनिटी टु कम्युनिटी एज वेल बट at the hindsight, it's all about your personal experience. Sometimes some people don't have very nicest experience within the community itself.
त्यसले पनि फरक पार्छ
एकदमै फरक पार्छ किनभने कतिजना इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्टहरूले चाहिँ त्यस्तो राम्रो एक्सपिरियन्स पाएको हुँदैन आफ्नै कम्युनिटीबाट विच इज फेयर इनफ टु हेभ द्याट जजमेन्ट
सो यहाँ स्टुडेन्ट्सहरू जो चाहिँ सिडनीमा बस्नुहुन्छ उहाँहरू चाहिँ आउनुहुन्छ धेरै यो एरियामा देख्नुहुन्छ
स्पेसली वेस्टर्न सिडनीमा बस्नेहरू जति पनि ब्ल्याक टाउन पेनरिथ अनि पारामारामा बस्नुहुन्छ धेरै जस्तो त्यता आउनुहुन्छ मेन हब भनेको त एब्सोल्युटली सिटी हो बट वेस्टर्न सिडनीमा बस्नेहरूको लागि चाहिँ वान अफ द मेन हब भनेकै हार्स पार्क हो एन्ड दिस इज चुलो वान अफ माई फेभरेट प्लेस एज वेल really nice, really funky, and I mean I'm not promoting the restaurant but it's really happening place. Live music देखि लिएर authentic Nepalese dishesहरू यहाँ पाइन्छ. You can try momo and also dhiro which is great here. So I love coming to this place.
That's nice.
आजको पहिलो भागमा हामीले पोस्ट पेन्डामिक अवस्थाबारे बुझ्ने प्रयास गर्यौं। अर्को हप्ता हामी यहाँका युनिभर्सिटी तथा कलेज पुग्नेछौं र थप जानकारी लिनेछौं।
नमस्ते नेपाल।
InfoPlus for genuine information.